Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to one in my Canal Series. Where are we today? Well, we're in the county of Somerset. We're just outside the large county town of Taunton. You'll probably hear some trains passing. That's the line that goes north to Bristol and it splits off at Coglow Junction on to Westbury and London Paddington. But we're not doing railways today, although we will come across bits of a disused line. Now, several months ago, I did a video called Looking for a Lost Canal. And that's what we're doing today. But it's a different canal. Last time we were looking for the remains of the Leinster Canal up in the northern parts of Herefordshire and northern parts of Worcestershire as well. Well, to give it its full title, I think it was called the Leinster, Kington and Tenbury Canal. It never got to either of those places, did it? But yes, so we found some interesting things on that, including a bit of a tunnel. I'm hoping to find a bit of a tunnel today. I'm at the village of Creek St Thomas, about a couple of miles to the east of the town of Taunton, right next to the Bridgewater and Taunton Canal, which we've not yet covered properly. I did touch on it when I did Bridgewater Port, but we've not done the full length of it. But that's not what we're looking at today. We're actually looking at the remains of what we can see of the Chard Canal, a little known canal here in Somerset, and see what remains of it down to the town of Chard. So I hope you can join me for that. So this is the wonderful Bridgewater and Taunton Canal. In that direction it takes you to the town of Bridgewater. I think it's about 12 miles to the north of where I currently am. And Taunton lies behind the camera in about a 2-mile direction. But as I say, that's not what we're looking for today. What I want to do first is to have a look at where the Chard Canal met this canal. So this canal was opened first and there were plans to build other canals in the area, but only this one, the one that went south to the Somerset town of Chard, came off. We'll talk about more about who built it and why later on in today's video. Now, word of warning, the weather today is a little bit unpredictable. Likely to be some very heavy showers like there was when I was doing the Leinster one. So I may have to curtail the video and do a part 2 looking at the Chard Canal and come back to this area again. But I hope you can stick around and see what we can uncover, because according to my notes, there should be a lot here to see. Now, the first thing to see here is a wonderful lift bridge which goes over the Bridgewater-Taunton Canal, or the Taunton-to-Bridgewater Canal, whichever you prefer. Not sure if it's still in use as a lift bridge. Not sure if it could lift if it wanted to. Used to go over to a farm on the other side, but there is our canal, which has been cleared of weeds, and in theory is navigable, though you can't get through it at the Bridgewater end because of the problems with the port there and a collapsing wall. Perhaps we'll touch on that another time. So this is the direction we're going to be looking at. This is heading towards the town of Taunton, but just a little bit further along the towpath should be where the Chard Canal connected to the Bridgewater-Taunton. This is a nice picturesque spot here with a bridge that carries the road between Creech St Thomas and I think it's pronounced Ruishton, Ruishton village, say just outside of Taunton here. And I'm not sure if that building on the right was linked to the canal in some way. Anyway, we're going to make our way a bit further along to the towpath here, see if we can find the junction. So this is a remnant of the Chard Canal here, and this was where it joined the Bridgewater and Taunton Canal. The canal actually opened in 1842, one of the latest canals to open in the United Kingdom, way after the Canal Mania of the late 18th century, some 60 odd years after that, and the timing of it couldn't be any worse. Well, why was the timing of this canal so bad? 1842 was the year that the railway arrived in Taunton. Once the railway got up to full speed, of course, the canal simply couldn't compete and closed some 25 years later. You'll also notice many of these dotted alongside the Chard Canal, and this was known as Stopline Green to protect the town of Taunton. So there's like an inner defence around the town. Mainly a defensive line protected by the Home Guard, but also complete with tank traps and following the canal, which could be used as a defensive position long after the canal had closed. See the pillbox there, which is looking out in the direction of the canal. And another gun position slit there facing the Bridgewater and Taunton Canal. And that's a wide view of the picnic area, the site here where the Chard Canal met the Bridgewater Taunton. So just to see where you are, you've got a number of picnic tables there. The ones that are furthest away from the camera, they're on the edge of the line of the Chard Canal, just so you get your bearings. And then we have the towpath. Of course, the canal would have gone through that, probably had a lifting bridge there, so that the towpath remained intact for horses pulling boats up and down the canal, and then the Bridgewater Taunton to the left of that. So that's our first bit or sighting of the Chard Canal. Over the other side of here, though, there should be an aqueduct that carried this canal over the River Tone. Of course, that's what we're going to look for next. Chard Canal was actually engineered by one James Green, who we have come across before. He was backed up by a subsidiary engineer called Sidney Hall. There was an act passed in 1840 and the revised one in 1841, say it was opened in 1842. There have been many schemes and plans over the years to link the English Channel to the Bristol Channel. One of the earliest ones was way back in 1769 by Robert Whitworth, who we've come across before when we've been talking about the Cotswolds canals a little further to the north of here. And that would have linked up the River Parrett, the tidal River Parrett, remember the video I did at Bridgewater Docks and Bridgewater Port, right down to the port of Seaton, an old Roman port in Devon, in the eastern part of Devon. So I'm now heading to the heart of Creech St Thomas village, making my way in the general direction of the church, although we're not visiting the church today. And then we're going to make our way to the two-tone bridges. Two-tone. Nothing to do with music, because there's an island in the middle of the River Tone, and there's one bridge and then another bridge. After we go over the second one, we're going to turn right and see if we can catch up with our aqueduct there. I'm just walking over, I'm just reading the name there on the plaque. I think it says it's called Dunning's Farm Overbridge. So this is the main railway line. That direction down there is Taunton. So look out there, that's the tracks. It's a very, very busy line, of course. This is just before it splits off to head off to London at Cogload, and that's in the direction down towards Cogload Junction. We're going to head on down this way into the village. Notice the blue bricks here, denoting a railway brick. Well, pillars been knocked off that one. As I say, we've just come over the railway bridge. I don't know, maybe there was a yard here or siding at one time. I'll check that on an old map, but that's not related to our Chard Canal, of course. We have a lovely old Somerset County Council fingerpost sign here. Ilminster is somewhere we'll be headed next later in the video. These are our two bridges. Well, this is the first of it, going over the River Tone. And that is the River Tone down there. I'm sorry about the traffic noise. It's seems to be quite a busy road here today. But it's looking lovely though. That's looking in the other direction. So in effect, this piece in the middle of the river is the island in the centre of the River Tone. So we've got another bridge to come. So I've now come away from that sort of surprisingly busy road. So we've got the River Tone next to us here, as I say, half of it, because the other half is the other side of that island over there. And I think I can just make out what we're looking for here. Very low arches with no parapet. I think originally they would have been a parapet, but we're going to have a look at that in a bit. So it's a really exciting bit coming up. And there's lots of interesting nuggets to give you about this canal, and one of them I'll give you now is that I did the Grand Western Canal probably about 18 months ago, or part of it, around looking at the Nine Head Locks. And there seemed to be a penchant for doing things in a different way in this part of the West Country. And like we saw at the Somerset Coal Canal, they used caisson locks. Remember that? I gave you the description on that. But they weren't the same design as on the Somerset Coal Canal, but a slightly different one. So it was a combination of the inclined plane with two like railway tracks running in parallel with ropes. Sorry, this track here is very bumpy, so I apologise for the shaky camera work, because this little humps and dumps in it. It's a beautiful spot here along the river, and they use them at various sections, and I'm hoping to look at one of them at, well, near the village of Falcon, which is, as it's according to that finger post back there, about 1.5 miles away. Anyway, let's head over to our aqueduct. And there's our Chard Canal aqueduct. Now, if you remember, if you cast your mind back to looking for a lost canal, parts 1 and 2 on the Lillesdon Canal in Herefordshire and Worcestershire, we saw a couple of aqueducts there, both of them incomplete. And I think one of them had actually been bombed, used as a target practice, unfortunately, over the River Team there in the northern part of Worcestershire. But happy to report this one on the Chard Canal is completely intact, although it has lost its parapet. I think there is a footpath. There seems to be some steps and a kissing gate, so I'm not sure if we can get up to it, but either way, that is still a magnificent sight and a wonderful find here on looking for a lost canal. Well, it's certainly found here, that's for sure. I had feared that might be the case. There is a fence there, so I'm on the embankment now, so I'm actually standing on what would have been the canal bed at the moment, and our canal would have gone back that direction, back towards the Taunton and Bridgewater Canal. But I guess it's, well, a dangerous structure really, so they don't want people standing on it. Let's see if we can get a view of it from the other side though. Now, I thought I heard some sploshing and coughing going on the other side of the aqueduct there, and yes, we have some cows here. We also have another bridge over the River Tone. Just pan around to the left. I'm standing on the canal bed, and it's that over there. So that is the railway bridge this time, not a canal aqueduct, but the railway bridge that carried the Taunton to Chard branch line. Now, I don't know a great deal about the Taunton to Chard branch line. It's not one we've covered. Perhaps that's one we can cover. I'm not sure if we could do it as a lost railway walk. Certainly part of the track bed is there intact. You can make out where it's on a slight embankment above the field. Of course, that would have been done for flood prevention reasons, to avoid flooding the line. Now, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I have a bit of an audience here which are gathered around the kissing gate, which is going to make me very, very difficult to get out of this side. In fact, there's more and more and more cows, not canals, approaching me at this point. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get a shot of it from the other side because they're completely blocking me off there, and I think we'll just leave those ladies to do their feet bathing there in the River Tone. Hello, haven't come to harm you. Hello. Yes, I know you can't get up the steps, can you? No. That's a great sight though. Wonderful. However, what I can see looking in the opposite direction, and looking in the south direction towards the town of Ilminster here now. This is still our Chard Canal, so I've got the aqueduct proper behind me, but you can see this structure here, which is still carrying the canal on arches over the field. And again, that is, of course, to prevent the canal from flooding when it was in use. Unfortunately, part of the buttress there is breaking away, and so is the arch collapsing, but considering that's been abandoned now for what, over 150 years or so, if not a bit more, my brain's gone dead, I can't do the maths, but that is a wonderful part of the Chard Canal's infrastructure there, here on the edge of the village. Now I'm going to make my way back car park right next to the Bridgewater and Taunton Canal there. It's a Canals and River Trust car park. It's free, so if you want to explore this section where I've walked here today to the aqueduct, and also to see that little section and little picnic area by the Chard Canal where it met the Taunton Bridgewater Canal, well, that's where you can do it from. So it's only a short walk in either direction to see both. Anyway, that's not the end of our video. We're going to head on now. It's just started to rain again, so I want to get back to my car, grab a cup of tea, and make my way over to the village of Falcon, I think that's how it's pronounced, and see if we can see, well, first of all, the line of our Chard Canal there, and any remains of the inclined planes. And I'll tell you some more about the history of this short-lived canal here in Somerset. Well, I've currently come round to the little village, or possibly hamlet, of Falcon, parked up by the church, and I've walked down a track. Insert a map now, and this is the canal bed of our Chard Canal. Can see it clearly along there. Obviously there's a tree in the way, I'm sorry about that, but so I'm literally standing in the middle of what was the canal route, and I think in this area there was one of those inclined planes, but what I was hoping to do is walk a bit further along there. I can't do that because, I'll just pan back here a moment, you'll see my dilemma. To get down to the bed of the canal, it's a very steep and slippery bank, which is also covered in bramble. You can see it's just wound its way around my foot, making it very, very difficult to get up and down there again. So I'm thinking even if I got down, I would really, really struggle to get back up again. So unfortunately, I'm not able to go down there to explore that bit any further. I'll just show you exactly where we are and what the situation is here. So this is the track that I've come on from the church at Thorne Falcon, and our canal's actually literally goes underneath the track here. So I'm thinking if there was some kind of bridge, you can actually see the track is slightly sunken at this point. So I'm thinking the bridge partially collapsed and it's been infilled now, from what I can gather. So it continues on both sides. So the bit I showed you where I couldn't get down is on the right of the screen, but you've also got part of the canal on the left. However, it's very, very overgrown. Let's see if I can get round to it from another angle. Now, bramble in this part of the world only seems to come in one size, humongously large. That's blocking my path at the moment. Let's see if I can move it out of the way. Well, I managed to move that large bramble out of the way. So this is our canal bed here, looking back in the other direction towards Canal Farm, where there is another aqueduct and remains of it, which is listed, but I think it's on private land, certainly around the farm. This bit is a bit, well, it's not really right of way, but it's not private either. It's one of those grey areas. Unfortunately, again, even on this side, I'm really struggling to get down because look, you can see the green algae there. It's very, very slippery red clay, which looks like the rocks there would have been built as an embankment when the canal was constructed, but I just can't see myself getting down there. If I was with somebody else, I would probably do it, but as I'm on my own, I don't want to be either falling down there with a broken leg or not being able to get back out again. Yeah, so I'm not going to risk it, I'm afraid, for that. Now, interestingly, you can actually just make out here there's a part of a fallen tree there, tree trunk, where that other tree in front of it, it's like a, not quite a 45-degree angle, 60-degree angle. You can see there where the line of the towpath once was above the canal. That gives a good indication of the depth of the canal at this point. See, it's clearly marked along there. The field, that's our canal, the other side of the hedge, but there's a fence there with barbed wire, and that's certainly not going across there. And that over there is looking towards the Blackdown Hills, and directly in front is Canal Farm itself. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to access the canal bed at this point. We'll move on to the next location. Just come along the edge of a field, and again there's no access down here. You can see it's very overgrown, but gives you a flavour of the steepness of what would have been one of the inclined planes along the Chard Canal. Let's move that out of the way there. I don't want to get too close to the edge. So it carries on down there, and as I said, it would have been two tracks up and down. It would have been wonderful to see it in operation, which have been roped, hauled, moving a caisson up and down. But sadly, no remains of it as far as I can see, but you can still see clearly where the canal bed once was on the inclined plane here at Thorne Falcon. Well, that was a little disappointing, but that's just the way it rolls when you're looking for a lost canal. You don't really know what you're going to come across, particularly one like this, which isn't that well documented. There is a little bit on it. Well, actually, I came across this canal. I have a book which I had in the 1970s, early 1970s, I think, at primary school. I think it's just called Discovering Lost Canals. It's it's a little book, and I lost my copy. I picked it up again, or another copy of it, should I say, in a charity bookshop, which is great. So I've got that, and I've had it a couple of years, and it's full of canals, and a lot of them happen, fortunately, to lie in the West Country Wanderings area. And it said there about the Chard Canal, which I hadn't previously heard of, so it was good, and it's always been at the back of my mind to cover it. Another YouTuber, Paul Whitewick, who I'm sure many of you will be familiar with, did a video about it, I think about 4.5 years ago now. And I actually haven't watched his video deliberately because I want to do my own video and probably look at other things maybe he didn't cover, and he'll probably have found things that I haven't seen. So you get my drift, but it'll be worth looking at his video as well, and I'll put a link to his video in his description of mine. As I'm making my way back to the car here at Thorne Falcon, just tell you a little bit more about the history of this line. So we had our Roberts Whitworth, who did that survey back in 1763 to connect up the Bristol Channel, River Parrett and down to Seaton. Well, that plan was revived in 1790. In fact, a route was reassessed and surveyed right through the town of Chard in 1790. And that was redone again in 1793 by a gentleman called Josiah Easton. And he had a look. But again, nothing became of any of their plans. I'll tell you some more about what happened next in this showery rain here as I make my way back. We're going to head over now, carry on in the car for a bit, and see if we can see a portal, maybe two portals, of one of the 3 tunnels that were on the Chard Canal. So just before we leave and look for our tunnel, this is just on the edge of the village here at Thorne Falcon, and we have a wonderful canal bridge completely intact. I managed to grab a shot to show you the arch is complete and the road still goes over the top of the route of Chard Canal at this point. So I'm now looking for Lillesdon Tunnel, which is one of 3 tunnels on the Chard Canal, and the portal of it, the southern portal, or bit that's closer to Chard from where we started, is right down there. Now, according to my OS map, there should be a footpath which goes through this gate, which is fine. I could climb over a gate. There's no mark to it being the right of way. The only trouble is, the other side of it, it's extremely dense foliage, very, very long grass, so I can't get over there, but it does go that way, and it's in there somewhere. I'm not quite sure what to do here, so I may go further on. There's a little stock vicarage and farm. Lillesdon, that's the one. I know this is all pretty impromptu and off the cuff, isn't it? And we're going to go round that way and see if I can track it up the route of it that way. But you can definitely tell there is a very, very, well, it's almost like a deep ravine there. It's full of nature and bird song. But unfortunately, I can't get a shot of the portal from this direction, which is just there. There's some corrugated iron, presumably to prevent people just tipping over the top of the portal of the canal tunnel in there. But that's the end of our first tunnel, and it literally goes through where I'm currently standing. So the canal is actually going underneath this hill here, and it started, the portal of it, the front portal of it, would be where that top of that incline was. Now, I actually managed to speak to the owner of Canal Bridge Farm, or Canal Farm should I say, there in the previous village, was it Thorne Falcon, and he gave me a lot of interesting information. He said that the inclined plane and the transshipment for it was right at the bottom by that bridge there, that canal bridge that I showed you, and it was transshipped there, making its way is what is now the driveway up to the farm buildings there at Canal Farm. So that's really interesting. Continued on, and then obviously you saw that deep section that I couldn't get into, where you have the woods, and well, it's completely overgrown, isn't it? So I'm not sure what to do now, so I think I might tackle it from the other direction, see what I can pick up with the line of it down there, and then I want to head down towards Ilminster, because there was another tunnel in that area as well, so hopefully we'll pick it up with it there. Now, I'm currently at a little village called Wrantage, which is on the main road towards Yeovil from Taunton. I do apologise for the traffic noise. And this here is the Canal Inn, because it's sat right next to the canal. The canal actually carried on over the main road on an aqueduct. Let's go and have a closer look. So the aqueduct's actually a very impressive structure there. Now actually part of a barn, as you can see on the farm. Now, not much of it survives on this side. There is the old canal barn there, and on top of the line of the canal there, on an embankment, is a pillbox like we saw earlier at the start of the video. Just underneath it there, just the other side of that gate, it looks like there's 2 large concrete blocks, and they would have been anti-tank blocks to work in conjunction with that pillbox on the top of the canal embankment, as I say, which would have gone from right across to left over the busy Yeovil Road and onto the aqueduct, which obviously the bit where it goes over the road is no longer here, so you just have to imagine that bit. But you can just see the huge buttress there alongside the barn. It's higher Wrantage farm here, and again this is the other side of our aqueduct there. That massive wall there, very impressive sight though, and as I say, it would have gone over the road there. Well, that's just wonderful. So the rain's coming down quite steady now. It's not really heavy, but I'm having to do filming sporadically. I'm now walking up what is called Crimson Hill, and underneath Crimson Hill there was a canal tunnel on the Chard Canal. So I'm see if I can see the portal of that. We don't seem to be having much luck today, although we did see that fantastic remains of that aqueduct there over the Taunton Yeovil Road, which was amazing to see. I was very, very pleased to see that. I've just had to negotiate, well, loads of cows, because it's a large dairy farm there, and yes, I'm not sure where our canal is. It's just over there somewhere. I think it's possibly underneath there, where you can just see it's kind of slightly bowed. So I'll see if I can get access to it a bit further up here. And when I get up there, I'll tell you a little bit more about the history of the Chard Canal. I must admit, I wasn't expecting to see that. We have a placard here, the Chard Canal, Wrantage. And it says, of course, we've already explained that the Chard Canal was built at the end of the era, construction starting around 1835. I'm not sure if that's right, because the Act wasn't passed till 1840. I'll go back and check my books on that one. And the construction took 7 years and opened on 1842, that's right, 1841 was the finishing of the construction, cost of £140,000. Now it says about here, one of the labourers employed on the tunnel near Curry Mallet was killed on Monday night last night by the sudden fall of the incumbent earth. This happened at 12 o'clock and it required 4 hours before the body could be uncovered. I can't read the rest of it because unfortunately it's worn away, but you get the idea that it obviously was dangerous. So we need to go through this gate here, hopefully, to see our portal. Now, I must admit, I'm a bit perplexed as to what is going on here, to be honest, this tunnel, because, well, it's the longest tunnel of the 3 tunnels on the Chard Canal, because we have a slope. Now, was there another inclined plane at this point? Because I can't see the portal. I'm not sure. This is looking back in that direction. I can't see anything that way. It's very, very overgrown in that direction. Let me have a look at the map again and see and try and piece it together. Yes, so what you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, is known as the Wrantage plane. So, again, it was an inclined plane, and you had those ropes with the 2 tracks going up here to the portal of the tunnel, which is somewhere in the undergrowth over there. So now standing on exactly in the middle of the canal bed, stroke inclined plane here at Wrantage, looking directly towards the portal, right in the depths of all that undergrowth there. So we have this here in the middle of our inclined plane, which I don't actually think is anything to do with the canal itself. It does different bricks to what we've seen on the canal, newer bricks. I think this is something to do with water company, because there is a pond or a lake at the bottom of the incline. You see round here, however, are various bits of rock and bricks, which perhaps was associated with the construction of the tunnel. It's especially evident here. We can see bricks exposed on this bank, and I do believe the portal will just been the other side. But when you look at the other side, it just takes you back to where we were just now. Again, it's just full of overgrowth, but no actual portal face. On this side, we have this massive bank here. Is the portal the other side of that, I asked myself. But I don't think so, because it then goes into a dip. I think that's just a saw that was dug out when this tunnel, 1,600 yards long, was constructed. Oh, this is a very, very frustrating portal to find. It feels like I've just been wading through the Amazon rainforest. Such dense vegetation here. And you can see by the height of the trees there, I'm actually above some of those younger trees down there, which are growing in what was the canal bed. And our portal is just out there. I can just make out the very uppermost portion of an arch, which is now right in the middle of the screen. Well, bit of a eureka moment. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out in the camera, because it's quite dark in here with all that vegetation. But that, believe me, in the middle of the screen and slightly to the right of it is the entrance to Wrantage Tunnel. Looks like there's some kind of shack over there at some point as well. Don't know if that's related to the canal or something a bit later, because it's corrugated iron roof. What purpose it served, I have no idea. Sorry for the grainy footage and the weird camera angle, but I'm deep in the depths of the gully where the portal of this tunnel is. But this path here, which curves around the top, ascending up to Crimson Hill and going over the portal on the line of the canal, is covered in large pieces of rock. Some of them actually have fossils in them. And I wouldn't mind betting that this rock came from when this tunnel was dug here in Somerset, and the rock was pulled out of the deep cutting and just simply laid on the top of this path, and probably further on onto the top of the hill as well. Well, I feel I've failed somewhat because I've not been able to bring you a crystal clear, sharp image of the front entrance to Wrantage / Crimson Hill tunnel here, or the northern portal of it. However, there's going to be, yes, you've guessed it, a part 2. So I'm going to come back here again because we've got the Ilminster tunnel to have a look at, which is further south of here, and various bits and pieces around the area of Chard, not least of which Chard Reservoir, which was built to serve the needs of the canal in terms of its water supply. Before I go today though, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about the history of how this canal started. So we're just going to rewind a little bit back to when I was walking back to the car at Fort Falcon and what happened next. Just to recap in our story, Josiah Easton was asked to look at the plan again in 1793, following on from Robert Whitworth's plan earlier on. In 1810, John Rennie, that doyen of many canals, was asked to look at it. By this time, the plan was known as the Bristol and English Channel, a much grander sounding title than just the Chard Canal, connecting the important port and city of Bristol right down to the English Channel. Now, he envisaged not a barge canal, or indeed a tugboat canal, which is what we have here at the Chard Canal, but a much more extensive piece of canal engineering, and that was a ship canal. Now, the costs of the barge canal have been costed out at £70,000, and that's in those days at the end of the 18th century. When John Rennie came on, he recosted it for a much wider ship canal, a new figure of £1.3 million, which was a heck of a lot of money in 1810. I'll put what the equivalent of that is in today's money below. So that's it for today, looking for a lost canal. Part 1 of looking for the Chard Canal here in the wonderful county of Somerset. There'll be another one in this series, and we will return again to look south of here, maybe have a look at the portal, the southern portal of this Crimson Hill tunnel here, as well as the Ilminster Tunnel and Ilminster Wharf, and then carry on into the town of Chard next time. Hope you enjoyed it today. Hope to see you on the channel again very soon. All the best for now. Cheers. Goodbye.